Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. I am Larry Ross, a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. I want to welcome each of you to our Sunday online service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you are watching us today, you are welcome here.
Good morning. I want to begin by giving a great big thank you to everyone who made last night's Pledge-a-thon a success. Thanks first to Matt Zeman and Heather O'Connor, our fearless hosts. And thanks to everyone who contributed a video or otherwise took part, from Kat and Marion to the youth ministry team, the storytelling of Donna Washington, the rare women, Kathy Putnam, Steve Warshaw, George Thompson, Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson, and so many others. Thanks also to the board for making last night happen. The annual pledge drive is now open and the phones are ringing off the hook, so to speak. To make your pledge, go to c3huu.org, click on the red button at the top, and follow the instructions for making your pledge. The pledge drive funds all of the programs and the operating costs of the church, everything that the church does for the year, from worship to music to religious education to programs to social justice to care and maintenance of our building, and of course, compensation for our unparalleled staff. All of that is what your pledge to the annual pledge drive makes possible. Thank you for your generosity.
Sing to me quietly.
The call to worship words are by Marian Hechten-Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge of minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection for the storms of bigotry and hate. In this place, may we find comfort and courage. Here may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. The Chalice Lighting, words are by May Sarton. Help us to be always hopeful, gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness nothing comes to birth, and without light nothing flowers.
I was a shy and lonely girl, with the heavens in my eyes, and as I walked along the lane, I heard the echoes of her cries. I cannot fight, I cannot a warrior be. It's not my nature, nor my teaching. It is a woman born in me. I was a lost and angry youth. There were no tears in my eyes. I saw no justice in my world, only the echoes of her cries. I cannot fight, I cannot a warrior be. It's not my nature, nor my teaching. It is a woman born in me. I am an older woman now, and I will heed my own cries, and I will a fierce warrior be, till not another woman dies. I can and will fight. I can and will fight. A warrior be. It is my nature and my duty. It is the woman born in me. I can and will fight. I can and will fight. A warrior be. It is my nature and my duty. It is a sister born in me.
Comfort and Challenge, a sermon for March 21st, 2021. About a decade ago, when I was serving my previous congregation, I learned that the professional organization for Unitarian Universalist ministers was piloting a coaching program. A number of UU ministers had been trained as coaches, and they were looking for people willing to be coached. The price was right, it was free, so I signed up. The first time I met with the coach who I was assigned to work with, she asked me what I wanted to be coached on. And I mentioned a set of administrative tasks that I had been avoiding. These tasks, they weren't unimportant, but they were also never the most important thing for me to do at any given moment. I always found an excuse, something else that was more pressing, more immediate, more deserving of my attention. Those tasks I had been avoiding, they could wait until next week, and then next week became next month, and next month turned into next year. Maybe you've had something in your life that you feel like you ought to be doing, but then you avoid doing. Some change you've been longing to make, something different that you want to try, that you don't quite get around to. So I met with this coach that I'd been paired up with, and it didn't go at all like I was expected. I mentioned to her the administrative tasks I had been perpetually avoiding, and she said, "That's understandable. Those tasks do sound dreadful." I'd say, "I really feel like I should be doing this." And she'd reply, "Well, maybe doing something else is more important." I'd say, "I think I'm going to set a deadline for myself for this task." And she'd come back with, "Or maybe you should take a vacation." It was the weirdest thing. I expected that I was signing up for a drill sergeant, someone who was going to kick my butt and motivate me and push me. And instead, my coach gave me affirmation. How strange. There's this old saying that ministers learn in the first few weeks of seminary, and it goes something like this. It's the job of the minister to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, or it's the job of the church to comfort the afflicted and challenge the comfortable. Comfort and challenge. Challenge and comfort. My sermon this morning is kind of a meditation on these two ways of approaching our lives, these two ways of approaching our spiritual lives and our engagement with our faith and religious communities. Our third Unitarian Universalist principle calls us to practice acceptance of one another and to encourage each other to change, comfort, and challenge. Our mission as a church is to nurture spiritual growth, support and care for one another, and effect change through our love of the world. And in that mission statement, we find words normally associated with comfort, nurture, support, care. But there's also words we might associate with challenge, growth, change. My sermon this morning is not going to take sides, because in truth, both comfort and challenge are necessary in our lives. But what I want to do this morning is kind of provoke our thinking about these. In truth, we walk this fine line between them in many facets of our life, right? Anyone who teaches, or manages, or leads has to balance the impulse to challenge with the impulse to comfort and support, right? Anyone who parents faces a dilemma of when to affirm and when to encourage change. When your partner or your friend comes to you with a problem, are they asking for your affirmation or for your advice? Imagine a friend asking you, "Do you like my sweater?" Now you could answer with comfort, "That sweater is lovely," or with challenge. "You should find a shade of that color that better matches your eyes." But the key is kind of in knowing what the other person is looking for. You do not want to challenge when they're seeking comfort, and you don't want to comfort when they're seeking challenge. What I'm saying is that it can be helpful to know whether what you are looking for is comfort or challenge, right? So with church, with spiritual community, what place are you coming from? Are you more interested in finding comfort or in being pushed out of your comfort zones? Are you more interested in finding acceptance or in being encouraged to grow? Do you seek affirmation for your beliefs and your values, or do you want to be challenged in these? These are big questions, and the answer is probably some of both, right? The answer may even be depending on the day. But the devil is in the details. I'd like to share with you 3 provocative pieces of writing that touch on the intersection of comfort and challenge. The first piece of writing is an essay by the surgeon Atul Gawande. Many of us have read Gawande's most recent book, Being Mortal, which is this helpful and insightful book that deals with the end of life. But my favorite thing that Gawande has ever written is a brilliant and utterly engrossing little essay on medical ethics entitled Education of a Knife. The essay begins with him performing a surgical procedure for the first time, while his supervisor, who has performed that same procedure thousands of times, watches on. A paradox of medical ethics. The only way to ensure that our society has enough qualified, trained surgeons is for lots and lots and lots of surgeries to be performed by inexperienced surgeons. The entire system demands challenge over comfort. That going for what is the most comfortable may, in the short term, may in a specific case, lead to a better outcome. But the entire system needs challenge in order for surgery to be available in our society. A second piece of writing that I find challenging is found in a book by Sarah Schulman. Schulman wrote an interdisciplinary masterpiece, Conflict is Not Abuse. Conflict is Not Abuse, which combines political science, psychology, religious studies, queer theory, comparative literature, and more. She challenges us in this book. She challenges us to become more comfortable with normative everyday conflict, rather than trying to pathologize it or eliminate it. Schulman writes, conflict is rooted in difference, and people are and always will be different. Most of the pain, destruction, waste, and neglect towards human life that we create on this planet and beyond are consequences of our overreaction to difference. This is expressed through our resistance to facing and resolving problems, which is overwhelmingly a refusal to change how we see ourselves in order to be accountable. Therefore, she writes, how we understand conflict, how we respond to conflict, and how we behave as bystanders in the face of other people's conflict determines whether or not we have collective justice and peace. What does this long and wordy paragraph mean? I think what Sarah Schulman is saying is that we live our most authentic lives, our most helpful lives, our lives when we're really a part of community, when we are able to actually be in conflict with other people, having them challenge us and us challenge them without freaking out and thinking that this situation is somehow wrong, that we actually need to grow to be more comfortable and receptive in relationships of difference and conflict. It is a profound and challenging book. And then there's a third resource that I find deeply challenging. It's a book that was just released by Beacon Press, a press which is owned by the Unitarian Universalist Association. This book by professor and historian Alex Zamalin has the provocative title, Against Civility. Against Civility. And in this book, Zamalin argues that calls for greater civility are ineffective at creating justice or bringing about liberation. He calls instead for a civic radicalism that challenges the status quo. His book is a call for direct challenges to injustice, to systemic racism, and to systems of oppression. And he argues that the only effective social change movements are ones that cause discomfort. This book is quite the provocation. So Atul Gawande writes about the necessity of discomfort in order for surgeons to learn. Sarah Schulman writes about the necessity of embracing rather than avoiding conflict for our communities to function. And Alex Zamalin writes about the necessity for disruptive direct action in order to bring about social change. So where does this leave us? Us as a church community. Where does this leave us in our regular lives? At the beginning of the week, I was talking about possible hymns for the service with Glenn. And my first thought was to say to Glenn, you know that hymn, Comfort Me, that we sing? What if we wrote an alternative version, a hymn called Challenge Me? And we could sing both of them together for the service, Comfort Me and Challenge Me. And it wasn't the best idea in the world, and I was soon talked out of it. That's okay. We wound up going in a different direction. But I want to give you that image of these two impulses. In relationships, in community, there is a need to negotiate our expectations around comfort and challenge. Sometimes I think that church would be easier, that life would be easier if we had these reversible name badges that said on one side, comfort me, and on the other side, challenge me. Comfort me, challenge me, so that it was always clear what we were seeking. But it's also true that a whole life needs both. A whole community needs both. A whole faith needs both. We need both comfort and challenge. One possible strategy is to ask of ourselves to reflect. In what areas of my life am I seeking comfort, acceptance, assurance, and reassurance? And in what areas of my life am I seeking challenge, discomfort, growth, and adventure? When in your own life have you longed for one or the other? When in your own life have these needs for either comfort or challenge called to you? In church, as in life, there needs to be some of both. Worship needs to both comfort and challenge. Our programs for youth need to be both places of safety and places where young people can be challenged to grow. We need the work of our caring ministry that tends to us in times of pain, grief, and loss. We need the work of our welcoming ministry to help make our community feel comfortable for new people and to help us all to grow to become as welcoming as we can be. And we need the challenge. We need classes like the 29-Day Racial Equity Challenge to challenge us. We need books like Cast to discomfort us. We need social justice efforts and leadership opportunities that stretch us out of our comfort zones. So may this church forever be a place of both comfort and challenge, however it is that we balance them. Amen.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Each week, we hold in our service a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows of our church community. This past week, several members of our church reached out to me, asking me to place stones for their joys and their sorrows. First stone is placed for Bianca Rodriguez. Bianca asks to add a stone of sorrow for a relative of hers who passed away on Friday. Bianca's relative's name was Lolita, and we hold Bianca, Lolita, and Bianca's entire family in our hearts. Next stone is for Karen Rossi. Karen Rossi's mother-in-law, her husband Bill's 97-year-old mother, passed away last week in her sleep. We hold Karen, Bill, and their whole family in our hearts in this time of loss. The next stone is a stone of joy. It's my honor to place a stone of great joy for our congregational administrator, Dana Lundquist. Dana and her husband, Teshin, announce that they have received news this week from social workers that they are receiving a 4-year-old girl, today with the goal of fostering to adopt. Congratulations, Dana and Teshin. Next stone has to be placed by Kathy Putnam. Kathy writes, our Lectio meditation group asks for prayers for safe travels for longtime participant Kaki Skolstad as she returns to her family in Texas. We also ask for healing energy and strength for Kaki's daughter, Julie, who just learned she has cancer. Both Kaki and Julie expressed their appreciation for the support of our congregation. And so we hold both Kaki and Julie in our hearts. A final stone is placed this morning for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken. We take a moment to hold in prayer each person in our community facing difficulty, whether that's pain, illness, grief, or loss. We hold in our hearts as well all of the joys, the transitions, and the milestones of those in our community. And we hold each other and this community in gratitude, with thankfulness for the programs of our church, with thankfulness for the bonds of community, with thankfulness for the opportunity to serve one another and this world. Amidst the prayers of our own hearts, we say, Amen.
Won't you join with me in saying the words by which we extinguish the chalice? We extinguish this flame but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I invite you to join with me in singing Shalom.